Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the virtual chapter for this is October, isn't it? 2022. Halloween is coming upon us. There's all kinds of exciting things. In fact, we have a very special witch that will be sharing the microphone with me as the evening goes along, and we're so glad to be here with all of you all. We also have a really lovely guest speaker that will be sharing with us about self-hypnosis and a variety of things. So quite a lineup. Before we get underway, let's check in. Let's check in with the forces in Chicago. Something tells me there's something going on in the Windy City, and it's already underway. Are you with us?
A very bewitching night in the Windy City. Chicago is joining you and bewitching you. It's the witching season. And all right, so what can I tell you? I had a chance to dress up, so I took it. And how often do I get to wear this shirt and this hat? So welcome to Chicago. And some of you who are regulars know this is not my typical background. Not bad for a hotel room at the Lincolnshire Marriott, right? This is where the Mid-America Hypnosis Conference is happening. And I am here a little early. The conference is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I start a certification class training tomorrow. So I have 2 days of students teaching them how to hypnotize somebody. And then I really put them through the paces because they go see all sorts of different people with different viewpoints on hypnosis and learn all sorts of bizarre things that I might not even think to teach them. So right off the bat, they're going to learn that there are all sorts of ways to do hypnosis and all of the ways work. So that's why I'm here early. That's why my lighting is a little low. But guess what? For you guys, I remembered the costume. So let the witching begin. And you know, he's called me worse than his witching co-host. So
I really did mean that in the best of all possible ways.
Of course.
So cool. We'll talk a little bit more about Mid-America in a few minutes, if you don't mind, because I want to discuss some things about your class with you. I think that's an exciting thing. And going on through the calendar, those of us here in Florida are aware, at least, that the Hypnosis Education Association is shaking things up once again and getting ready for their fall meeting, which is November 11th through the 13th. And for those of you who don't know about the HEA, it's a rather unusual organization because it's one of the few hypnosis organizations that I know of that is owned entirely by its members. It is a nonprofit, and it enables us to put meetings together for a lot less money and things than we would have to do otherwise. And we've been together for about 20 years. It's become kind of old home week for some of us, and a whole lot of folks that are really good friends from Central Florida. And through the years, it has changed a little bit. And thanks to COVID, we ran 2 years worth of programs online. And when that happened, we started getting guests and visitors from all over the country and members from all over the country. So now that we're back live again, we still decided that we wanted to make sure that we could take care of those folks. So what the HEA does now is, aside from our Florida meetings, is we have a number of online events that are like for members only. Membership, by the way, is $55. And we're talking about 6 or 7 online opportunities during the course of a year. Some of them a part of our Living Legends series, where we interview people like Larry Ellman. And coming up, by the way, on that is Shelley Stockwell on October 21st for, again, members of the HEA. So if you're interested in that stuff and you're not a member, go to heahypnosis.com and you can join up. But that regular weekend meeting is November 11th through the 13th here in Florida at the Drury Inn outside of Orlando. And it's going to be a great time. Now, one more thing on my calendar, and I don't know, Karen, if you got some other stuff coming up, but I've got here's in November, is my big press is beginning November 16th through the 20th. Is the Certified Master Trainer training for IACT and IMDHA. So if you're somebody who is interested in becoming a trainer and moving forward in that direction, this would be the opportunity for that. And it is, again, 5 days all online. We do the fall one online, and then the spring one we actually do at the conference 3 days before and 2 days after. So either of those are ways for people to get involved with training through IACT IMDHA. And that's all the calendar that I know about. You got any other things coming up, Karen?
So you were talking about November. For me in November, my certification training moves to Zoom for 12 sessions. So then we do the hypnotherapy portion and train on Zoom. So there's a lot more opportunity, and I've got people from all over the country in this training. So it's a great way. They come together twice live, and then they work from wherever they are and come to their home on Zoom. So that's what I'll be doing in November. In January, I know this is jumping the gun a little bit, but in January 4th, for World Hypnotism Day, I'll be working with Sherry Gilbert, who many of us know and love. We're doing a workshop for World Hypnotism Day on metaphors. In fact, we're putting together a whole workshop on how to use metaphor, how to create metaphor. And so Sherry and I'll be doing that project probably all of next year. And we're going to kick it off on January 4th. So I'm really excited about doing that. She's another great IACT, IMDHA member, by the way, and runs his at the Phoenix chapter, I believe. Michael, do you know?
Yes.
Phoenix, I think.
Yeah, that is correct.
So that'll be very cool.
Cool. That sounds lovely. And you missed one, by the way, in December. In December, ladies and gentlemen, right here at the virtual chapter, you heard it from one of Santa's elves himself. We are going to have, of course, our annual Christmas buffet. And it's a buffet that has 7 courses, each course being a different presenter. So in that one evening, our regular session, we'll just have a multitude of short presentations from really special people, each bringing a certain flavor to the feast. So so we do hope that you will join us for that. That one's going to be a lot of fun.
Let me use that as a segue, if you don't mind, Michael.
Please, I love segues.
Into continuing education, because we've talked about conferences from all different organizations and all different places. We talk about HypnoThoughts. We, of course, talk about the IACT IMDHA conference in Orlando, and now HEA and also Mid-America, all sorts of things. Because we believe, and this organization believes, in continuing education. I have to say, give big props to Robert and Linda Otto, because in 2020, I got home that year in February from the ICBCH in Vegas. I arrived home, and 4 days later, everything shut down. The world shut down. COVID hit, and the world shut down. In May, we were planning the first conference in Orlando that year for IACT IMDHA. Everything shut down. Robert and Linda didn't close the doors. They put on a Zoom conference in May. On the regularly scheduled dates, they went ahead and had the Zoom conference. I talked to Linda about that, and I said, first of all, how impressed I was that they got it all together and they set the gold standard for it. When Mid-America went Zoom, we copied what IACT IMDHA did because they did it brilliantly. But I asked Linda, what? You put it out so quickly. What was the drive to do that? And she said, she looked at me like I was kind of nuts. And she said, we guarantee our members education. We promise them that, and we're serious about it. I mean, that's why there are great chapter meetings. That's why we do this for everybody in all sorts of countries, and there are other strong chapter meetings. That's why we have conferences. That's why we have Galaxy of the Stars, and why we have all of these other things. Because this organization, and many organizations, okay, believe in the importance of continuing education. As Michael has pointed out many times, Larry Ellman and Milton Erickson, who we all follow in one form or another, died more than 50 years ago. If they were still alive, they would have evolved. They would be doing it differently today.
Aaron, they'd be dead 100 years between the two of them.
Right. They would have definitely evolved. And the only way we evolve is to keep getting together, keep advancing, keep learning. Somebody in California might come up with something that I haven't heard of and haven't thought of. And I might listen to it and not want to participate in it. But still, the mind is open and broadened. And I think we ought to really get together and do that. One of the things I encourage my students to do at Mid-America, I assign them certain instructors, but I encourage them to go to things that's out of their comfort zone, so that they can see that there are belief systems all over the place. They
In
don't
fact,
get
Karen,
all on the beliefs. I'm sorry.
Karen, pardon me for interrupting, but that's really what I wanted to acknowledge you for. I mean, I know where we're headed in this conversation, but right here, your class is one of those things that as you were describing it, I was thinking when I was trained in neurolinguistic programming, my NLP training was 27 days long, and we had a different trainer every weekend of that program. I can't think, getting your training from a variety of sources rather than from somebody that I told my students this weekend, I said, I'm really afraid that I'm one of the guys that some point in your future, you're going to say, well, my teacher told me that, and it's like, gosh, the more viewpoints that people expose themselves to, if you really want to have richness of learning, I think comes from that kind of diversity. So that your students get the best of what you have to offer, and I know you will give them something wonderful. But then this nice assortment of check out this one,
Reality. I teach speed inductions because all of the organizations want you to teach speed inductions. I don't personally use them in my office, but I teach them and I certainly know about them.
Mhm.
Well, I'm going to teach my students a couple of very simple speed inductions, and then they're going to spend 2 hours with John Serbone, and he's going to teach them speed inductions and instant inductions and all sorts of stuff that I wouldn't even think to do. I mean, how could I get an expert like that to come and teach that portion of the class?
Yeah.
It's going to be at Mid-America, and there he is. What a great education they're getting. And then guess what? If they decide later on in their career that they want to go into stage hypnosis, they've got the perfect place to start to find out where to get that education. If they want, have them go to see all sorts of other people. So if they want to do spiritual hypnosis, they're going to go to Don Hood, and they're going to go to Shelley Stockwell, and they're going to go to Randy Light, and they'll know exactly where to go to advance that education. Because I think that's really important.
I'm looking for a class in slow inductions. I think that's
Oh, my dear. Let me interrupt again and say, you know what? This is the way I define Michael and me. Michael is poetry. Oh, and he is. And I'm a limerick. And, there are all sorts of people like all sorts of different things. That's just the truth. And there are different flavors for different folks. And Michael does have a much more compassionate approach than I do. I kind of have a hit it and get it. Let's get it done and get it over with. Make that change and let's go. Not that I'm authoritarian. That's not the deal. But yes, I do a little bit more approach.
See, now I have that too, but it seethes just below the surface. And then what I show people is a little different. So anyway, this is great. And this is exactly the point, though. The exposure to so many different things, nuances. And I hope that our students end up with the idea that there isn't a right way to do this, but that there are a variety of ways that people operate in the world of hypnosis, and with a lot of success. It was really weird to me because I think it took me probably 20 years of being a hypnotist and admittedly a little righteous in some of my attitudes about how you're supposed to do it and what's the right thing. I know that that's who I have been, hopefully a long while ago, because one day I discovered that all these people that I knew were absolutely doing it wrong were still getting results. And I got really curious about, maybe it isn't what we think that's what makes the difference. Maybe it's something. And I think finally I started appreciating what hypnosis is all about.
Yeah.
So, oh, cool. So,
by the way, do I also get to mention that I'm the keynote speaker at Mid-America?
At the Mid-America, yeah.
Yes, and my topic is hypnosis, the mother of reinvention. You'll have to attend the keynote or watch me on YouTube. But there's another little tidbit of information I'm going to share in that keynote, and that is hypnosis is BS.
Oh my gosh.
Hypnosis is and so is NLP for that matter.
You heard it here, folks.
I have to come quickly and attend my keynote to get to the bottom of that, or next month I'll explain where you can find it. So you get to the bottom of that
will be great. That will be lovely. And so I am so looking forward to that. Now my trip to Chicago suddenly seems worthwhile. I can hardly wait.
Woohoo! He goes to see his mother after me. So there's something even more compelling that brings him here. But we're delighted that she brings him here every year.
Yeah, I have to go see her because I'm in trouble.
Uh-oh.
It's a long story, but you know. So, well, anyway, this is all exciting. We're talking though about the way people learn hypnosis, the way that we grow in this field, and again, I say exposure to as many opportunities as possible. Things like the Galaxy of the Stars, for instance. I mean, we just did that last month, and you know, another 4 great presenters gave a half a day each to the folks that were there. I think, Dennis, were you there? I think you were. Yeah, I thought you were. So that was, you know, it was a lovely event, and there are just opportunities. I know that there's a lot of people in IACT and IMDHA who have never yet found their way to the virtual library, and there is on the IACT IMDHA website a plethora, a veritable plethora, as a matter of fact, of scripts and articles and things about hypnosis written over the course of the last 50 years. I mean, and it continues to grow and grow, but thousands of things there, and back issues, of course, of the Unlimited Human, you know, and all of those things. You know, I grew up in Oswego, Illinois. What can I tell you? That there actually is an experience that people have had when they thought that they were the only one in the village. You know what I'm saying? So here you are with your hypno skills, wherever all of you may be. And isn't it nice to know that you have access to a tremendous amount of resources and some great and wonderful people when you know where to look for them. So the reason I mention all of this and that I'm moving in this direction here with the conversation is just to let you know that IACT is reinvigorating, and I think that it was mentioned, by the way, in the Unlimited Human this time. It just came out about a week ago. For those of you who are members, you got it. Is reinvigorating the mentorship program that they used to have. I'm just curious because I can sort of see a bunch of you out there. I'm going to flip gallery view for a minute so that I can see a little bit more. But by a show of hands, I'm wondering how many of you have had positive experiences with a mentor that really helped you in your growth in hypnosis? Just a couple. Oh my goodness. Okay, great. Yeah, great. I love it. I said just a couple, and then the hands popped up. I must be a hypnotist. But really, you know, I'll tell you what. Seriously, for a lot of us, when we started learning this, we didn't know other people that did hypnosis and stuff. Especially those of us who've been around, you know, a longer time, because the associations weren't even there when I got going with this. So I just cherish the relationships that I've had with people like the Andreases, or with Stephen Gilligan, or with I did some work with John Grinder for a while, and people like that. And I was fortunate and lucky enough. I don't know that the world supports this anymore, by the way, because we're also electronically driven. But every time I found a teacher that I was interested in, if they were available somewhere on the planet, I would find out how to get there and how to spend some time with them. And so I have this eclectic collection of people like Tim Leary and Ram Dass, you know, in my background and all of that stuff as well, because I wanted to know, you know, what was going on. So creating opportunities like that for ourselves is the way really that we do and can grow. And in this newer age, it may be programs like this and access to you know, Zoom programs all over the place that really can make a difference for people. But IACT IMDHA is reinstituting their mentorship program, or like I said, reinvigorating it is the way. And for those of you who don't know about it, the way that it works is essentially you go to the website and you let them know that you're looking for a mentor. You also could just call them and let them know that you're looking for a mentor. And they have essentially a catalog of people that are available to do mentoring, and they find somebody that you know that's a good fit for what it is that you're looking for. And you know, and if the two of you agree that that's somebody you want to work with, then it's set up. Basically, they are the broker, if you will, of the transaction. But it's like a $75 fee to IACT. It is then $600 paid to that mentor for a span of 6 months of mentorship. and you and the mentor set up the program the way that's going to work best for you guys. So so if you got some interest in giving yourself 6 months of real involvement with another teacher or trainer, hypnotist that has some specialization, whatever it might be, you may want to check that out.
It is a whale of a deal, I got to tell you, because there are a lot more expensive mentors out there. I know for sure. And IACT is offering a really good deal on this, and a good host of folks too.
Yeah. And to be fair to the mentors, you're right, because among those that typically are a little more expensive than that, I think Karen and I are both included. But the thing with the IACT IMDHA mentorship program is it's an opportunity for us. And so I'm a mentor through it. It's an opportunity for us to give something back. It really, it's really a great deal for students, and it gives us that sense of community that I just crave, man. I live on this stuff. So I'm really happy to see that's coming around the way that it is. All right. Well, all of that said, it is 8:55. That means that we only have a few more minutes to mess around before we have to get serious about how hypnotists can start taking better care of themselves. And in the service of that, Karen has found for us a special presenter that I'm happy to have met this evening and is new to me. So I'm looking forward to this. And Karen, I wonder if you would be ready to give an introduction.
I would be delighted to, Michael. We were talking about bringing in other organizations, bringing in all sorts of people. We all can get along, right? Let me prove that to you right now, because Joann is a certified NGH consulting hypnotist. Joann has won almost every award the NGH gives out. The Charles Tebbett's Bring the Light Award. She's probably got a lamp in her office, right, Joann? Do you have the chair? Oh, I covet the chair. I think we all covet the chair. But she just was inducted into the Order of Grades, so she gets to put OB on her initials. She's got a host of achievements with the NGH. She also writes for their journal. And so we think that everybody has a point of view. Joann's got 2 great books. Joann wrote Hypnosis Easy as 1, 2, 3. Oh, Joann, I don't have those right. Here we go. Self Hypnosis Easy as 1, 2, 3. I love that title. And she's got a potpourri of hypnotic techniques. And she is doing her part to continue educating folks. She does certifications. She is in it to bring it. And one of the things she wants to talk about tonight is how we need to take care of ourselves, right? Using self-hypnosis. Plus, she's going to talk about both her books, some potpourri of techniques too. But Joann, I'm wondering if you would first, I got to know, before we even get started into the meat of self-hypnosis, how did you get into hypnosis in the first place? Out there in Yonkers. Oh, by the way, she was Person of the Year in Yonkers, and she's a real Yonkerin. What do you
Yonkerite?
What do you call it?
Yonkerite.
There you go, a Yonkerite.
Oh, but I was born and bred in Brooklyn, New York.
We couldn't tell from the accent. But how did you discover hypnosis?
Oh my goodness. Very interesting story. I was always interested in hypnosis ever since the age of 12. And I bought a book called The Key to Hypnotism. And it was a small paperback book that was advertised on the back of a comic book. And I paid $1 for it. I sent in my $1 and I got the book back. And I looked at the book, and it would seem very easy to induce hypnosis. So you used a fixation point. So I created a fixation point of a black button with a white dot on it. And I said, Ma, come here. And I called my mother over, and I put her down in a seat, and I said, Ma, look at the button. And I proceeded to talk sleep, because that's the way they did it in the old days. You know, your eyelids are getting sleepy, you're getting tired. and I talked sleep to my mother. And after a minute or two, she closed her eyes. Now I'm thinking, is she really in hypnosis, or is she just resting her eyes or taking a nap? So the book said, if you went over to the person and you lifted their eyelids, and if they were looking up, then they were hypnotized. So I walked over, I lifted her eyelids, and she was looking up, and I said, oh boy, I hypnotized my mother. Oh, now what? How do I bring her out of hypnosis? And it was very simple, just, count them forward. But that was my first experience with hypnosis. How I got involved in it as a career, I saw an ad in the Learning Annex. Now in Chicago, they know the Learning Annex. In New York City, they know the Learning Annex, but this was several years ago. The Learning Annex was a college without walls. You would go to a high school or an elementary school or even a college, and they would sign up people to teach you different things. Well, the course was called How to Be a Hypnotist, a Lucrative New Income Opportunity. So of course the word lucrative caught my eye. And since I was interested in hypnosis, I said, sounds good. So I took the class. It was a week. It was a 3-hour class. The instructor was, I really liked what the instructor had to say. The instructor was the late Richard Hart. And I liked what he had to say. So I signed up for his basic course, which back then was 2 weekends, right? We used to become hypnotists in weekend courses. But I still liked what he had to say. So I signed up for his internship and his advanced course. And that's how I got into the business end of hypnosis.
And he was the resident educator for the NGH, I believe, was he not?
He started out as the educational chairperson of the AAEH, the Association to Advance Ethical Hypnosis, which was around right at the same time as the NGH. Harry Aarons, who started the AAEH, Association to Advance Ethical Hypnosis, broke away from the NGH. I don't know the backstory, but he broke away from them and formed his own organization. And that was going along, and that had more members than the NGH at that time. But eventually the chairperson of the membership died. He was also the editor of Suggestion Magazine. He was also something else. And after he died, not many people were willing to pick up the baton. I was the executive director for maybe 10 years, and we would have a conference in New Jersey every year. But the president of the organization always picked up the tab for the conference. That was Walter Brackelman's. So the organization eventually voted to fold into the NGH. And of course, that was the last of us.
Well, I love hearing about all of these organizations, but Michael just put a link to your books in the chat room. And so, Joann, don't make us wait anymore.
That's my website. The link to my books. I can put the link to my books in the chat.
Tell us about your books. Michael is, I think, got all of that thing handled. So tell me about Self Hypnosis Easy as I just put a lot on his back, but I think I see him smiling, so I think it's okay. So Self Hypnosis Easy as 1, 2, 3. Do you, Joann? I know you wrote about it. Do you practice self hypnosis?
Oh, absolutely. And whenever I do practice self hypnosis, I achieve my goal. I'm a firm believer in hypnosis, self hypnosis. Robert, my husband, is also a hypnotist, and we use hypnosis with each other all the time.
So give me an example of you using self hypnosis and it worked.
Okay. I used to weigh 225 pounds at one point, and I was really pretty much overweight. And I decided, well, my instructor said, you know, you better do something about your weight. If you're going to hypnotize other people to lose weight, you're fat. So you better hypnotize yourself and to lose weight. So I did. I formulated a lot of different suggestions to change my habits. And I guess I lost about 40 to 50 pounds. And that was when I was about maybe 35. So I also used self-hypnosis to stop biting my nails.
Back to your weight thing. I'm guessing what she was practicing was confrontational hypnosis. I mean, I'm just thinking, you're fat. Whoa.
Well, that's what Dick Hart said to me at the beginning of the classes. He says, you want to help people lose weight? You're fat.
Yeah. And he was a confrontational hypnotist.
Yeah.
Another good example of it all works, even if you form a suggestion in that way.
So another thing I wanted to accomplish was I wanted to exercise a little bit more. So I formulated a suggestion every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. I walk on the treadmill and I feel great. So I practiced that for a long time until the habit was set. And that's why I walked on the treadmill.
You know, Joann, I am being a little confrontational too. I don't doubt you for a moment. You know that I love this book. And if I'm not mistaken, you promised that you would do some kind of demo.
Well, what
or group experience.
A group experience. What I am asking people to do is I'm going to teach you how to formulate a suggestion right here and now in order to achieve a goal. So if you have pen and paper handy, and I think I posted that on your virtual chapter thing, if you have pen and paper handy, I'm going to teach you how to formulate suggestions by following an outline. And I'll go over all of that outline. Of course, all of the details are in my book. And I would appreciate if you give me feedback. Go to my my email address. Thank you, Michael. My email address, you can send me after you formulate your suggestion and you want additional help, just go to my email address, JOANN, the number 4, at OPTONLINE.net. Put in there a virtual chapter meeting suggestion, because I don't open up emails from people I don't know. So if you put virtual chapter meeting suggestion, I will open up the meeting. And if you give me a suggestion that you're struggling with, I'll help you formulate it. But not for the next couple of weeks, because I'm getting ready to go away.
You're going to cruise. So don't have trouble with your suggestions for the next 3 weeks, but after that, then.
After that, yes. Okay. So thank you, Michael. And so there were a couple of ways of learning self-hypnosis. An easy way to learn self-hypnosis is to go to a hypnotist and have somebody hypnotize you, and then give you a post-hypnotic suggestion that whenever you do such and such, you'll go into hypnosis. And you'll know what hypnosis feels like because you were hypnotized by another hypnotist. The other way of learning self-hypnosis is to read a book. And my technique of self-hypnosis is different than any of the other books that are out there. I looked at a lot of self-hypnosis books before I wrote mine. And with my technique, and it goes back to Harry Aarons, who was the president and executive director of IACT. It goes back to him, where he teaches people how to formulate their suggestion, give themselves the suggestion before they go into hypnosis. And then the suggestion goes around in their head while they're in hypnosis. Because what happens if you have to use your conscious mind and think about the suggestion that you're using for yourself while you're in hypnosis? If you're using your conscious mind while you're in hypnosis, you're lightening the hypnotic state. With this method, you give yourself suggestion before you go into hypnosis. Then the suggestion goes around in your head for 2.5 to 3 minutes. The subtitle is Self-Hypnosis Easy as 1, 2, 3. And that refers to the 3 steps that you need to learn to put yourself into hypnosis. But the subtitle is 3 minutes to change your life, because you're in hypnosis for 3 minutes. And once you give yourself this suggestion over a 2-week period, at least once a day, you'll start making that change that you suggested to yourself. Now, there's only 2 reasons why a self-hypnotic suggestion doesn't work. The first reason is that maybe you didn't formulate the suggestion properly. In that case, go over the steps and how to formulate the suggestion and review the steps to make sure that you formulated it properly. The second way of formulating the suggestion, I lost my train of thought. The first way is to, go over. The second reason a self-hypnosis suggestion doesn't work is maybe you didn't want to do it in the first place. You have to want to make the change that you are making the suggestion for. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And we all know that working with hypnosis, the client has to want to make that change. No amount of hypnosis is going to make that change for the client. And of course, you know, they all want to come to you, hit you over the head. They want me to hit them over the head with the baseball bat, put them in a closet, wake them up 3 days later, and they're all better. Well, it doesn't work that way. Thank you, Michael. Even if you want to make that change, if you're not willing to do the work to make that change, it's not going to happen. So here are the steps. Now, on your piece of paper, write down the numbers 1 to 7. And we're going to go over each of those steps, 1 to 7. And leave a little space between them so you can write down a little bit of how I'm going to describe it. Number 1, all of self-hypnosis must have action. The suggestion must have action in it. Tell me what you're going to do, not what you're not going to do. For example, every day or every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 a.m., I walk on the treadmill and I feel good about myself. The action is walk. Walk is the action. It must have some action. And the second reason, the second criteria is it must be positive. Tell me what you're going to do, not what you're not going to do. And we all know that negative suggestions do not work. There are a few exceptions, but for the most part, negative suggestions do not work. So it must be positive. For example, for the next 10 minutes, whatever you do, whatever you do not think of a pink elephant. What are you thinking of? Right? What comes to mind? A pink elephant, of course, especially if I say a pink elephant with black and white, with pink stripes. Can you still hear me? Because my Zoom is just faded out a little bit.
You're fine.
Okay, good. So it must be positive. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I walk on the treadmill and I feel good about myself. The next one's simple. One thought, one idea at a time. You may want to lose weight. You may want to stop smoking. But first, pick the one that's most important to you, and then go on to the next one. So all of your suggestions should be simple. Next, believable. Put a star next to this one. Believable to who, guys? Believable to you. Right. It has to be believable. I worked with a woman for weight loss, and she wanted.
Uh-oh. Did we lose her?
Just lost her. Robert, she might have to scoot over next to you.
You know what I'm wondering? I'm wondering if her battery ran out. her computer dimmed before she lost.
Well, she's in the same house with Robert, so I'm sure they will figure it out and she will be back in just a moment. Believable is what?
In the meantime.
In the meantime, believable is where she left off. And if that's one of my favorite things, the whole believable angle of it. The person who's saying this has to believe it to be true. Otherwise, it's just going to cancel it out, right?
When you wish upon a star. Absolutely, absolutely. But in fact, by the way, so while we're waiting for her to come back, we had Carl Smith on here a couple of weeks ago, or a month ago, I guess, or whenever it was. I was watching a video of him again today, another demonstration of the emotional detox technique that he had shared with us. And those of you who are here, by the way, you can check that out by looking at the replay from last time. It's out there, and it was really a very interesting thing, because then he started defining and redefining hypnosis, and he and what's that other fellow's name? Darn it! Well, a lovely man that I've known for a bunch of years from over in the UK, and I'm spacing his name at the moment. But they were talking about the metaphors that we use, and that ultimately, behind whatever form it takes, believability or believing is the thing that makes it work. So key tenet, and I think they're back. Are you?
I am on Robert's computer. I don't know what happened to my computer. So
yeah.
Well, but it all worked out. This is the way it was.
Here I am.
Yes, you are, and you were unbelievable.
Yes, and she was still talking when I went into her office.
Oh, my goodness.
She had no idea.
Let's see.
That's believable.
Yes, it is.
I think I've done that myself.
Okay.
Okay.
So it must be believable. So she was doing, she wanted to do aerobics for 30 minutes. And I said to her, well, what's going to happen after 5 minutes? She says, well, I'll probably get tired. And maybe after 10 minutes, well, I'll probably quit. So I says, well, how about doing aerobics for 10 minutes? And she said, yeah, but I want to do more. I says, well, at least promise yourself you're going to do 10 minutes. Make it believable. She said, okay, I'll do 10 minutes. And I said, after you do it for 10 minutes, change your suggestion and say 15 minutes and then 20 minutes. And as that's working, gradually increase it. So it must be believable. I also had another person who wanted to crew, and that's the rowing, college rowing.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted to practice every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And he said, no, that's not going to work. Thursday, I have to do such and such. Okay, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. No, that's not going to work either, because Friday I have to do such and such. So it has to be believable. It doesn't mean that your suggestion is written in stone, but it does mean that you need to change it to make it believable to you. Okay, the next one is time frame. It should have a time frame. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., I walk on the treadmill and I feel good. It has a time frame, because come Friday or Saturday, if you didn't walk Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, the suggestion is not working. So you need to examine the suggestion and change it if you have to. So it should have a time frame. It doesn't mean it's written in cement. You can change it. But basically you need to have a time frame. The next one is present. Present tense. It should be in the present tense. I walk. I exercise. Whatever you want to do, it must be in the present tense, because under hypnosis, in the self-hypnosis, you're going to imagine yourself actually doing what your suggestion says. So could you imagine yourself, just everybody close their eyes for a minute. And just, can you imagine yourself will walking? Just think about it. Can you will walk? No, of course not. That's in the future. So it needs to be in the present tense. Even though you're not going to do it, it needs to be in the present tense, because when you are in hypnosis, you're going to imagine yourself doing it. You okay?
Yes.
Okay. You're going to imagine yourself doing that suggestion. So, last but not least, it should carry a reward. Now, the reward could be as simple as, and I feel good about myself. The reward could be as simple as, and I feel good about myself. But it should carry a reward, because you're willing to do some work and you should be rewarded. That's the kid in you, you know, what's in it for me? It should carry a reward, and the reward could be as simple as, and I feel good about myself. So, action, positive, simple, believable, time frame, present tense, and carry a reward. So
That believable part, Joann, just got in the way of my reward. I wanted my reward to be I win the lotto. And then you brought it back around to that whole believable thing. That's the key. That is the key, right?
yes, it must be believable, because if it's not believable to you, it's not going to happen.
So you just gave us 7 steps, and they're really very important steps. But your book is Self-Hypnosis Easy as 1, 2, 3. Now I got to know the 1, 2, 3 part.
Okay. The first step in self-hypnosis is called the pre-sleep technique. And the pre-sleep technique is a simple phrase that's told to yourself 10 times before you go to sleep. Every day, in every way, I get better and better. And in order not to fall asleep and not to lose count, you count on your fingers, your 10 fingers, and say it to yourself 10 times. Every day in every way, I get better and better. Every day in every way, I get better and better. Every day in every way, I get better and better, etc. And say it 10 times. After you say it 10 times, then you can go to sleep. That's programming your mind to starting to accept suggestions. Programming your mind to accept suggestions. So that's to be done every night for 7 nights. Step 2 is the actual going into hypnosis. In step 2, you say to yourself, you count backward from 50 to 1. And as you count backward from 50 to 1 at about this pace, you pick a spot on the wall. You look at that spot and say 3, 2, 1, close your eyes, And after your eyes are closed, you count backward from 50 to 1 at approximately this pace: 50, 49, 48, 47, 46, until you get to count of 1. After you reach the count of 1, you count forward from 1 to 1, 2, 3, open your eyes, emerge from hypnosis. What that does, it gives you a time set of 2.5 to 3 minutes that you're in hypnosis. And there's your 3 minutes to change your life. That's the subtitle of the book. What that does is it gives you the time set of 2.5 to 3 minutes. Step 3 is to be done 1 week after you've completed step 2, at least once a day, because now you've established the time set. But before you do step 3, you need to formulate your suggestion. So you have your suggestion. Let's just say every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I walk on the treadmill. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m., I walk on the treadmill and I feel great. So you hold that suggestion in front of you where you had, where you were looking at the spot on the wall. You write that suggestion down on a piece of paper, hold the suggestion in front of you, and repeat the suggestion 3 times. If you don't get it in 3 times, repeat it 5 times. After you've repeated the suggestion to yourself, you put the paper down, look at your spot, count 3, 2, 1, close your eyes. And now you're going to allow that suggestion to go into your head, around in your head for 2.5 to 3 minutes. That's why every word should be positive, because sometimes the suggestion will break up. I walk, treadmill, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, feel good. I walk on the treadmill, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, feel good. Feel good, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, walk on the treadmill. Even if those words break up, all of the words are still positive. I had a woman who her suggestion was, I do not eat fatty foods. Well, that's not a good suggestion, because if you remember, the mind doesn't process the word no. So what's going to come through? Eat fatty foods. And we don't want that as a suggestion. So that's another reason why all the words have to be positive, because when the suggestion breaks up, all the positive words come through. So those are the 3 steps. And those are the how to formulate suggestions, the 7 criteria to formulate suggestion.
Now that's really some cool stuff. And I think a lot of times people just don't work on themselves for lack of a technique or a method that's just as straightforward and simple as that. It is beautiful in its simplicity, and I really appreciate that. I also want to reiterate, if you don't mind my interjecting this, you said earlier about giving yourself the suggestion before you go into hypnosis. This is a thing that I am preachy about. So I was just so happy to hear you say it. It was such a validating thing. I think sometimes people have the idea that if they want to communicate with their unconscious mind, that they can't do that unless they're in hypnosis. And the funny thing is, hypnosis is about getting the conscious mind out of the way. The unconscious mind is listening the whole time, and so you can go ahead and start talking to it now if you like, because it's already listening. And so then your technique is a way of pulling yourself away from that. And that's really nice. So thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome. So does anyone, we don't want some dead air time when people are writing their suggestions. So if you're writing a suggestion and you want some help with it, email me, like I said, but I don't promise to get back to you right away.
Yeah.
So you want me to mention some of the techniques in the other book?
I was just,
Actually, I see some hands. Camilla had her hand pop up
Questions? Okay.
a moment ago. Can you ask your question, Camilla? Oh,
I
you're-
think was by mistake, Michael. Sorry,
Oh, okay. All right.
but I love
the
it. Thank
thing
you,
about-
Joanne, for sharing.
a new thing about Zoom, I don't know about everybody's computer, but if I gesture a lot. And when I do, the camera picks it up and it just did it and raises my hand. So yeah, I get it, Camilla. That's exactly what happened.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so if there aren't any, Patty Scott's got a question. You'll have to unmute yourself, Patty.
I mute.
There you go.
I must have hit it twice. I had a question when you were talking about believable that just came to me because I was thinking about, like, if you work with a smoker, that came to mind because smokers are kind of those that are, they either are, they aren't kind of thing. And they're usually pretty apprehensive when they come to a hypnotist. They've usually tried everything else before they come to us. And a lot of times working with smokers through the years, they can't quite get to the point before we do the actual session, even with a great pre-talk, that they really believe this is going to work this time, So what do you have to say about people who aren't really 100% sure that and believe that this is going to be possible, but yet it still works? I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
You mean self-hypnosis, or if somebody were to go to a hypnotist to stop smoking?
Oh, is there, so is it, you think it's different if they're doing it themselves?
I think it's easier for a person to stop smoking when they go to a hypnotist, rather than doing the self-hypnosis.
Okay.
But-
Well, I don't know of anyone who's tried to quit smoking with self-hypnosis. So maybe that wasn't a very good question. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. It can work, and there's a chapter in my book on stop smoking, and it gives a lot of different suggestions that the person gives themselves. But what the suggestion is coping techniques. Like, whenever I want a cigarette, if I ever have a need for a cigarette, I drink a glass of water and the craving goes away. Something like that. It's all suggestions based on what are you going to do instead of picking up that cigarette. Whenever I'm in the car, I listen to the radio and I feel good about my being a non-smoker, a former smoker, an ex-smoker. So the suggestions a smoker would give themselves if they're going to do self-hypnosis to stop smoking would be, what are they going to do instead of picking up that cigarette? And I have a whole chapter in my book about stop smoking.
Sorry, now I do want to make a question, if I might.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So based on that answer, I understand that critical things like smoking, and I will consider like compulsive eating, and this kind of, I would say, problem that people ask help in hypnosis, it's because they already tried almost everything.
Right.
And so based on your experience, what are the goals that there is no way we shouldn't, so stop smoking is one of them. What are the things that we shouldn't count on this technique to help us? Because I thought, and please let me know if that's a good idea, to teach this as a reinforcement for my clients, right? At home, like a homework.
Yes.
So
Have your clients buy my book.
I will do. We'll do so. Don't worry. And what are the other problems that you suggest to do not be addressed with this technique?
Okay. I say right in the beginning of my book that if you have emotional problems, neurological problems, types of problems, emotional eating, or suicidal thoughts, this book should not be used for those types of things. You need to see a medical professional. Even with, I do give some pain management techniques, but I'm very careful couch it in such a way that only after you've have a diagnosis of chronic pain and you have the permission of your doctor, should you use hypnosis, because hypnosis can help reduce and even eliminate the pain, but you don't want to mask a tumor. So I'm very careful in how I word certain things in the book, that it shouldn't be used for emotional issues, traumatic issues, and things like that. Basically, it's used to change habits and to get yourself on track.
Yeah.
And Wes, you have a question?
Yes, John, thank you very much for presentation. Among the attributes of the suggestion, I believe you mentioned it has to be measurable, right? Like 3 times a week or whatever.
Yes.
And the second question is, the motivation is must, but what happens if somebody has a very strong desire, but then relapses or whatever? Do you include plan B in the progress?
If I understand your question right, if somebody is not responding to the suggestion that they've given themselves, is there an alternative?
My question is that the progress may not be straightforward. The progress may be more like this. So how do you cover for the relapses or to continue empowering somebody even though there is a relapse into the...
Wes, that is a wonderful question. I've never even thought about addressing that in my book. I didn't address it at all, but that's an excellent point. The next book.
Do you have an answer for it now?
No, I don't have an answer for it now. Anybody else have an answer for it?
I just have a quick comment about it, and I don't know if it really answers the question, except that I do understand that Erickson, on the rare occasion that he did working with issues like smoking, he typically would include in the suggestion some resources for, and people say, well, wait a minute, now he's planning on them failing, but he literally would say, and 6 months from now or sometime in the future, when you find yourself picking up a cigarette, this is going to happen. And it's kind of an interesting thing that he seemed to think it was useful to just build it in. He assumed somewhere along the line that there would be a moment, when the client was ready to sort of test their success, and built a thing right in about it.
I actually do that too, Michael. I never realized that was an Ericksonian thing, but I talk to my smokers. I tell a personal story about when I quit smoking. A year later, I had a cigarette and went across the street and bought a pack because I was a smoker again. And then I quit smoking a year after that. And then a year later, I had a cigarette and said, okay, I better go buy a pack because I'm a smoker again. And then I quit smoking. And when I quit smoking, a year later, I went to my daughter's college and it was mom's weekend. And I said, okay, I'm going to live her freshman life. We were having beers with the frat boys. And she looked at me and said, Mom, when I have cocktails, sometimes I like to have a cigarette. Do you mind? And now she was an adamant non-smoker when I was a smoker, right? She hated it. But I said, whatever, I'll have one too. And we bummed the frat boy cigarettes all night long. The next morning I woke up and I could not wait to get into the shower, get that stench washed off of me, brush my teeth. I threw those clothes in the trunk and drove home and didn't have another cigarette because I had quit smoking. And so when I tell that story to them, I say, only you tell yourself that you were a smoker again. And then I also back it up with, have you ever gone into a bar or a restaurant or a party and had somebody come up to you and say, when I have a cocktail, sometimes I like to have a cigarette. Now, I'm not a smoker, but can I bum one of yours? And most smokers will say, oh, yeah, they do that. And I go, okay, do you label them a smoker? And I said, well, no. And I said, why not? They said they're not a smoker, but you watched them smoke a cigarette. Well, yeah, but they said they're not a smoker. And I say, that is the point. They're not a smoker. They're just playing with it. And so you don't become a smoker. That is the tobacco companies who've hypnotized you to believe that you were going to have a cigarette again. And it messes
Yes.
up thinking and messes up the brain. And then it takes that away from them.
Yeah. So
I-
I want everybody to hear what you just said, Karen. So forgive me for being so passionate about it, because I love that. You're talking about the difference between a piece of behavior, an unwanted piece of behavior, and an identity.
Mhm.
You know, so it's when we say I am a smoker or I am this, that's a whole different deal than I'm having a cigarette. And the logical level that we hold that at can make all the difference in the world. So cool that you got that.
Thank you very much. And thank you for that explanation, because that's a deeper learning that I got from that, Michael. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Alfred's got a question.
Yes, I do. It's more of a comment, but I personally believe in self-hypnosis because I've used it a lot and it does work and I'm really happy with it. But with the clients I work with and I give them a self-hypnosis type technique, they come back and say, it's too hard. And it comes down to discipline. Do they really want to do this? And that's, I think, the most disappointing thing that I get is that they don't want to take the time to discipline themselves to make it work.
Right.
Has anyone else had that experience?
Well, I think this is the reason that people come to hypnosis often, is that they may be asking for some change that actually, if they pull themselves up by the bootstraps, they might be able to make for themselves. But it's just like I don't think I can do this, so I need somebody to make it happen for me. If you could hypnotize them into doing self-hypnosis, Alfred, that might be the right idea.
Alfred, I
The
have a
people I work
question.
with, I'm sorry.
I have a question for you. When you give them a homework assignment to do self-hypnosis, what do you ask them to do? Do you teach them by giving them a post-hypnotic suggestion and tell them, do this to go into hypnosis?
Actually, I've never done that, given a post-hypnotic suggestion. No, that's a good idea. I really like that.
Yeah,
But I have not.
usually when I give a person homework, I can tell how committed they are to making that change if they do their homework. If they don't do the homework, they're not that committed to making the change. They want you to do all the work. But you may want to try, you may want to do something. Well, okay, what kind of change? And then formulate the suggestion for them. And then give them the post-hypnotic suggestion that when they, as comfortable as you are right now, you're in hypnosis right now. So when you're home and you're in a very quiet place and it's safe for you to do hypnosis or self-hypnosis, just sit in a comfortable chair, put your hand on the recliner or your lap, and whenever you raise your index finger and then drop it, you'll close your eyes and go into a deep hypnotic state, as deep as you are now, or even deeper.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would also consider putting their feet to the fire and just asking a question, what's stopping you?
Mm-hmm.
What stopped you from doing it?
Yeah.
And if they say, they'll tell you, it's just too long. I don't have 20 minutes that I can do that. Oh, well, great. Let's do it in 10 minutes.
No, we can do it in 3 minutes.
That's exactly right. That's what I mean. You can do it. Well, absolutely. Right. But you already taught him the 3-minute technique, Joann. So it's going to be harder to weasel out of that. But maybe you shorten the time or change those rules or change the parameters of it. Or if I can't do it first thing, what's stopping you from doing it? Either the technique's too long, I can't remember to do it. Wow. And I ask my clients this kind of thing all the time. Wow. Do you go to the gynecologist? I don't ask that to guys. I'll ask them, do you go to the dentist? And they'll go, yeah. And I say, oh, do you just wake up one morning and say, I think I'm going to go see the gynecologist today. And they go, well, no, I make an appointment. That's right. So make an appointment with yourself, put it in your calendar and do it. If you do things that you make an appointment with, you do things that you write down on your calendar. So you've got to write yourself on your calendar now. But if you ask them what's stopping you, they're going to tell you the solution right there. it's too long, the times aren't right, I can't remember to do it. And then you can you can help them facilitate a change in that or a solution to that.
You know, Joann,
Yeah.
Joann, one of the things that I like about your approach and about the idea of doing it by post-hypnotic suggestion is I think sometimes they don't do it because, and I heard Alfred sort of say this in his comment, is it's too complicated. We've made it too difficult for them, that maybe there's a simpler way. I was telling my class this weekend, so a couple of people that are here have certainly already heard this story. But when I was first doing this, I learned the Betty Erickson self-hypnosis technique, which is kind of an interesting thing. And you sort of establish the length of time that you're going into self-hypnosis for. And I had no frame of reference for how long somebody should do this, except being the old hippie that I am. I remember the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi telling us 20 minutes twice a day was what it takes to make a change. So I was telling people, go home and do this, not realizing I was asking them to give 40 minutes of every day to this little self-hypnosis project. And then when they came back to me and hadn't practiced, well, no wonder. So sometimes it's that too. How easy do we make it for people to be able to get back there? And your idea here of installing it in as a post-hypnotic suggestion is really a lovely way to do it.
Don?
Yes. How long does that post-hypnotic suggestion generally last without a reinforcement? Like if you send a client home with the post-hypnotic suggestion, does that last for days or weeks, or how does that work? Could you
I
hear
have
me?
an answer for that.
Joann, yeah.
Yeah, Joann, go ahead, please.
A post-hypnotic suggestion lasts as long as the client wants it to last, or unless they accept another suggestion in its place.
Yep.
For example, if you accept the post-hypnotic suggestion that whenever you put your fingers together, you go into a deep state of hypnosis, or whenever you say X, it's going to happen, something is going to happen. Or when you're working with a weight loss client and you give them a post-hypnotic suggestion that they can easily eat healthy food, and then they see a piece of cheesecake in front of them and they accept that suggestion, then they're not eating a healthy food.
Mhm.
A post-hypnotic suggestion lasts as long as the client wants it to last.
And they do have to take some responsibility, right, Joann?
That's
Just
right.
Just like in taking antibiotics from a doctor. If the doctor says take this for 10 days and you start feeling better after 4 and stop taking it, it's not the doctor's fault if your cold comes back.
That's right. So,
I have at least one that I'm aware of that has lasted for over 30 years.
what's that?
Well, I'm just generally, I'm saying this is how long post-hypnotic suggestions can last. The particular one that I've got is that I used to lock my keys in on the wrong side of the door. And so I basically just gave myself this simple suggestion, back in the 80s, actually longer than 30 years, back in the 80s, that whenever I went out of a door, I would check my pocket to make sure I had my keys in it. And the funny thing is, it's so unconscious and so integrated that now I'm not even aware that it's there, except when I'm traveling. And if I go to a hotel and I have a card in my pocket instead of my keys, invariably I start to go out of my door into the hallway and I stop like a deer in headlights. And it takes me a minute to wonder what the hell is going on here. It's like, oh, I'm checking for my keys. So it's lasted all that time.
Well, I have a story about post-hypnotic suggestion. When I was a college student, I worked with a psychologist so that he could develop his hypnotic technique and I would learn self-hypnosis and have access to his whole library. So he would put me into hypnosis. I'd sit in his recliner and he would look at me and then go into his hypnotic voice and say, just relax. And I would close my eyes and go into hypnosis. Well, 20 years later, I am now a hypnotist.
Mhm.
And I thought I'd get in touch with Dr. Field and tell him that I was a hypnotist. So I knew he was a member of the American Psychological Association. So I wrote him a note and I said, if you're the Peter Field that worked at Veterans Hospital, I'm the Joann Polizzi that you worked with 20 some odd years ago. And he wrote back to me. He called me on the phone. He said, well, I'm going to be in New York for a conference in October. This was like August or September. He says, how about meeting me at the Biltmore Hotel and we'll have lunch? And I'll say, that's great. So we met for lunch and we were sitting there and they served us our soup. And he said, do you remember how I used to put you into hypnosis? I said, yeah, I remember. He said, all I had to do was look at you, change my voice and say, just relax. Because I wanted the suggestion to work.
Yeah.
She is
And she's still that
so
easy.
easy to put into hypnosis. Yes.
So Joann, unfortunately, we're so close to out of time. I hate to think about this. Do you have in that potpourri of techniques, I'm sure you can pull one out, that's about 5 minutes that you can run us all through?
I do.
I'd love it. We only have about 5 minutes and then we'll close out final questions and get your contact info and that stuff, but I'd love it. She's got the book, A Potpourri of Hypnotic Techniques. This will be one of those.
I call this my non-content induction. And so if all of you would just take a deep breath, and all of you are hypnotists, so you easily can go into hypnosis. So all of you just go into hypnosis. And well, before you close your eyes, just look at me. I'm going to ask you to hold your hands like this. And when one of your hands, hold one of your hands like this. And as I'm speaking to you and as I'm talking, your hand will go down. But I just wanted to say, when I ask you to, bring your hand up like that. Okay. So everyone take a deep breath and just close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, think about something. Maybe it's a self-hypnosis suggestion that you want to work on, or think about some kind of goal that you want to achieve. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to raise that hand in front of you. And it doesn't have to be high, and I don't have to see it on the screen. Just raise your hand in front of you. And as you're thinking about that suggestion, I'd like you to come up with 3 creative solutions so that you can achieve that goal. Maybe your subconscious mind will come up with 1 creative solution. Maybe it'll come up with 2. Maybe it'll even come up with 3. But think about a creative solution and allow your subconscious mind to come up with that solution. And now, as you're thinking about that goal that you want to achieve, and you're thinking about that solution, as you're thinking about that solution, your hand will drop slowly to your lap. And as when your hand reaches your lap, you will have come up with 1, 2, or 3 solutions to achieving that goal. And as your hand slowly drifts toward your lap, allow your subconscious mind to come up with a solution or a way of achieving that goal. As your hand drifts slowly to your lap, your creative mind comes up with a solution. And I'm going to count from 1 to 10. And as I count from 1 to 10, just allow yourself to go deeper into hypnosis as your hand drifts slowly to your lap. And when your hand reaches your lap, you will have come up with at least one creative solution to achieving that goal. 1, becoming more and more aware of that solution. 2, and you may not even be aware when you come out of hypnosis, but the solution will come to you either in your sleep or tomorrow or in a couple of days. 3, as the hand drifts slowly to your lap, and if your hand is already resting on your lap, just enjoy the hypnosis. 3, 4, 5, deeper and deeper into hypnosis, coming up with 1, 2, or 3 creative solutions to achieving your goal. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Even if you didn't come up with a solution now, you may think about, remember, imagine a solution coming to you within the next couple of days. In a moment, if your hand hasn't reached your lap yet, just rest your hand on your lap now. And in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5. And when I reach the count of 5, you'll open your eyes, emerge from hypnosis, feeling wonderful. 1, beginning to emerge from hypnosis. 2, feeling very, very good. 3, your mind is clear and alert. 4 and 5, eyes open, feeling great. That was 5 minutes, Karen.
Great job, Joann. And I do feel great, don't I?
Yes, you do.
That was lovely. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
So we are sadly down to our last couple of minutes, but we got a minute for a question or so, and I'm going to repost the information about Joann's book and her links. So I'll do that while you're talking. But is there a question hanging out somewhere?
Well, I have a comment. If you go to my website and sign up for a free guide to the subconscious mind, it's on my website. You'll see the link, and you can download the free guide to the subconscious mind, and then that'll put you on my mailing list, and I will let you know of things that I'm going to be doing.
So I just want to read one of the comments to you, Joann. That was great, Joann. Thank you so much. Thanks, Karen and Michael, for a great meeting. Oh, I probably didn't need to read that part. I was just trying to. But yes, thank you very much, Joann. Now, do you have a practice, an office in Yonkers, or do you practice online?
Both.
You're seeing people in person.
I see people in person, and I also see people online. So I have a stop smoking client coming probably sometime end of this week, beginning of next week. And I have a person who's very negative thinking all the time. And I have him coming online. He's from Cleveland, Ohio. So he's online, and he's very happy that I have an online practice too.
Yeah.
So both of your books are available on Amazon, correct?
Yes, they are.
Hypnosis Easy is 1, 2, 3, and a potpourri of hypnotic techniques. Joann Abrahamsen.
Yeah.
And give me one more time, Joann, for the people who are on watching the recording, because they don't get to see the chat.
Right.
Give me your email and your website, please.
My website is www.joannabrahamsen, JoannAbrahamsen.com. And my email address is JOANN, the number 4, at OPTONLINE.net.
Opt online if you
Opt
if it-
online.
Yes. All right, Joann, thank you so very much. I appreciate your techniques. I appreciate you joining us. You've added an awful lot to our little virtual chapter here. I thank you a lot.
You're
No, we're
welcome.
going to set her off in a minute. So don't go away, Joann, just yet. I got one more thing I need to say, and then we're going to give you a send off. There's just a comment from Risman, who's thanking us, and he says if there's a sharing session like this again, if this is new for you guys or any of you who have never been here before, the virtual chapter meets the second Tuesday night of every month. So so watch for it. We'll be here, we'll be here again a month from now. And yeah, please come back.
Yes.
I have posted the links to Joann's books once again in the chat room. Do bear in mind that when we get off of this call, that chat room is going to disappear from your computer. So I would encourage you to click away, as soon as possible. And so now that's all I've got. You got anything else, Karen, before we do the send off?
I do not. I appreciate Joann very much for this. And what we want to do is let you know how much you were appreciated, Joann. So how about everybody open the microphones? Let's give her the send off that she deserves.
Yay. Thank you,
Joann.
Joann. It's lovely
Thank
to have
you.
you.
Thank you,
Really
Joann.
appreciate what
Thank
you
you.
brought
It
to
was
us.
amazing.
We will be in touch. Have a great time on your cruise.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thanks.
inviting me.
Thank you.
Thanks a
Yeah, see
lot.
you next week, next month, everybody.
Okay.